Hey TechKnowStuds! In this lesson, we're going to take a look at some regulations, some accreditation, and what standards are. Let's take a look at what some of the definitions are between these terms. First of all, regulation is those things that some sort of authority has put rules or laws into place that we have to follow. So those are the laws and regulations. Accreditation is something we opt in for. We're going to get accredited so that way it gives some validity to what we're doing. A good example of this is a lot of colleges and universities will get accredited so that way it gives a legitimacy to the education that they're offering. And then we have standards. Standards is just the bar that you're going to set that people have to meet to become accredited or have to meet to become compliant. Now, what I want to do is I want to take a look at a comparison between compliance and frameworks. What a compliance is we're complying to a set of standards. What a framework is, essentially, is a set of standards. A framework is that blueprint for our security program, how we're going to set up our security program. When we talk about complying, we're complying to a set of standards. So for instance, legal or regulatory standards, that's what we're complying to. So there's this strong correlation between compliance and frameworks. In fact, we can see that there's a big overlap between those, that there are things that we have to comply to, and there are frameworks that are out there, and some of them act as both. A great example of this is PCI DSS. PCI DSS is if we're processing credit cards, we have to comply with this. Well, it's a set of standards, and so we consider it a framework as well. So we could call this both compliance, and we could call it a framework. So let's look at some specific examples. GDPR is something we have to comply with if we have users or if we're collecting data from anybody in the European Union. Then we have to comply with GDPR. I've already mentioned that if we're processing credit cards, then we need to comply with the PCI DSS, which is also a framework. If we have services that children under 13 are going to be using, then we have to comply with COPPA. Another set of standards was created by the Cloud Security Alliance, or the CSA. And this is the Security, Trust, Assurance, and Risk. So this is a set of controls that you could use to implement some security on your network. Similarly, common criteria is a set of standards that we can use to measure up our security program as well. The Capabilities Maturity Model Integration, or CMMI, is somewhat of a measurement of how far have we progressed, the maturity level of our IT department or our cybersecurity efforts. And so we measure it up against the standards here to give us somewhat of a rating. And if we take a look at here, we can see the different maturity levels that we'd have, and we'd rate where we're at with these different maturity levels across all the different standards. This is ISO's website. So ISO stands for International Organization for Standardization. So they have a lot of different standards that they've created. So one of them is in the IT and related technology field, or safety, security, and risk. So we see these different standards that they've created out there. So they play a big role in this. And this 27,000 range right here is the set of standards that define a lot of IT and cybersecurity. Where ISO is a little more international and accepted more internationally, we also have the National Institute of Standards and Technology. And so they define a lot of what happens in the US and the standardization for US companies. Ultimately, there's a lot of resources out there and a lot to go over. And I'm not going to cover it all in this lesson, but this just gives you a glimpse into some of the organizations out there that are creating these standards and some of the standards that they're creating and some of the frameworks that they're creating.